Hi, welcome to the Coffee with Lisa podcast. I believe that everyone in business has missing structures and endless possibilities to create new opportunities. The challenge is most don't know how to leverage the relationships for a win-win. I believe that your relationships will make the difference in the results you'll achieve, the impact you will have, and the speed in which you will make opportunities happen. I believe that you can see things through, but you often struggle to see through things. I'll make the invisible visible, the complex simple. Because of these beliefs, I created the Coffee with Lisa podcast and have invited the best experts to join me and share their experiences and knowledge with you so you can move faster and gain a competitive advantage in life and in business.
Well, today I have Judge Graham and Matt Manero with me, and we are going to talk about how do you scale, nail it and scale it, how do you build business, what's culture, and you know what, let's just get right into it. So first of all, Matt, for those who are on the stream right now that don't know you, how did you get started into business? I know that it was wasn't an easy road for you, but you scaled it, billions of dollars in business. Let's talk about that, and then we'll get to you, Judge.
All right.
Good morning. It's coffee and cigars with Lisa this morning. That's right.
That's right. Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be coffee in the cup.
Well, look, I appreciate you having myself and Judge. I mean, it's wonderful to be with you. I've watched the movement that you're making for yourself and all the moves that you're doing, Lisa. So congratulations on your desire and effort to get seen and exposed. It's really starting to work for you. So congratulations there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, as it relates to, my business story, look, I was always the entrepreneur, the kid pushing the lawnmower and shoveling snow. I grew up in Connecticut. My dad was a very difficult guy. He just passed away a couple of weeks ago. And, he really built some thick skin for me. And as much as it caused such tremendous problems when I was a kid and even as a young adult, I didn't realize it until a little bit later that he really prepared me for business because, when I went into business and started my company 25 years ago, literally a dumpy one-bedroom apartment. I had a folding table and a Yellow Pages, and I just cold called my way into a client base. I was so prepared for that thick skin because of all the times that he called me an idiot and a moron and a retard and a stupid, that I was actually totally comfortable with a customer hanging up on me or closing the door in my face. And that's what it took. And that went on for a long time as I built my business of financing over-the-road big rigs, so people can visualize financing truckers that go up and down the highway. And it was a tough road. And then, unfortunately, in all disclosure, then the self-esteem stuff started to kick in, and the lack of self-esteem started to kick in. And I really began to doubt myself and my abilities. And I began to truly contract and stay uber small. And that was a massive mistake on my part. I should have rolled the dice bigger. And where we are today after 25 years, we probably should have been there after 6 or 7 years. But I was just so afraid of success, real big success. And it kept me down for too long. And so if I could offer your audience one takeaway, is that you really have to get clear on that head cheese. And Judge and I will talk about it today, I'm sure. But that head cheese, the way our tapes are recorded, we may not all have them recorded properly, but we do have the responsibility to get in there and get them re-recorded for success.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, you bring up a good point because I think there's a misconception in the world. I think more people are afraid of success than they're actually afraid of failure. And, I think that stops people from actually moving forward. What do you think, Judge?
I don't know. I think people are pretty scared of failure. Right? I mean, people are scared of the risk. My background is somewhat similar to Matt, but also very different. I had a very loving father and a very, father that said, hey, you could do anything. Right. And, I took that to heart with a lot of hard work and just made it happen. But, I've never been scared to fail. right? I think true business owners that get it to the next level, they aren't scared of that, right? I mean, when you take out whatever that worst case scenario is and you're cool with it, then you're good, right? And I think if you're not motivated by success and you're scared of success, you've got a bigger mental challenge you've got to overcome.
Yeah.
Because dude, I want more of it. Right?
Exactly.
I'm
Well,
not scared of it at all.
exactly. Well, and I think the greatest thing about failure is you learn that you need to cross that off your desk and keep moving forward. Because if you don't fail, how do you know what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah.
But Lisa, I think what you're hearing this morning is it's the yin and yang that Judge and I have when we work together in our businesses together, because I knew Judge was going to answer your question that way. I knew he was going to say, no, not really. I'm actually not afraid of success at all. I'm really afraid of failing. Yeah. Whereas I would agree with you from my standpoint that there's no question I was afraid of success. I felt like a failure. So how could I succeed, right? So I think you're getting this wonderful perspective this morning from myself and Judge. I knew he was going to answer that question that way.
Well, here's the other thing is that no answer is right or wrong. It's just perspective on moving forward. And what does that look like?
No, Judge's answer is correct. You should not be afraid of success. You should expect it. You should have anticipation for it. You should prepare for it. You should be ready for it.
You should demand it.
You should demand it.
You should demand it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's our obligation and our responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to our people and to our families. If you're really going to step in the ring, I have a firm belief that, go for it all or don't bother, go big or go home, put your big girl panties on and let's roll up the sleeves and go forward. Judge, so let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, you talked a little bit about your father and you had a loving father and a family, but where did everything start for you?
That's a big question. I mean, for me, I've always been, Matt hates the word entrepreneurial, so I won't use it. He likes business owner. I'll want to say I've always been motivated by money and motivated by the kill. I mean, I'm talking since I little, like whether I was selling pencils to bubble gum, to watches, to beepers, to whatever. I mean, at a very young age, I was motivated by what money creates and it allows you to do. And also with the idea of winning, right? When I got that first taste of blood, that first sale or the ability to understand that I can trade a product or a service or a value in exchange for a monetary money, dude, I was all in. I mean, we're talking like 5-6 years old. So that started my journey. Similar to Matt, School of Hard Knocks, great family, but very, normal, kind of upbringing, right? Nothing that I'm experiencing now or my kids are experiencing, and super hard working environment, right? I mean, I think the older I've gotten, it's still about that. You got to put that work in, but it's much more strategic now. Matt and I talk about this concept all the time, playing chess versus checkers. And I think my whole, life, I've been playing, checkers, but I was really good at it and I worked really hard, and I'm moving into chess.
Yeah. Well, I think, the only way to really get to that next level and push yourself and be accountable not only to yourself, but to your people is being strategic about every move that you make and acting with intention. So let's talk a little bit about, you both have really successful businesses. How do you motivate your people? Both of us know Coach Bert, and he talks a lot about prey drive and how to actually motivate people moving forward. We're in, what some would call it, we're about to enter into the biggest recession imaginable. How do you really drive your people to keep moving forward in these rough times? And we don't know what to expect moving forward. Matt, I'll let you answer that first.
I mean, it really does come down to the setup, right? I always like to say that the close is done in the open. In other words, how you position yourself is often how the transaction will end up closing. I think it's the same with hiring and with your people. How you position the opportunity, the upside, the expectations, the requirements in the open, very early on in the interview process, and then make sure that you adhere to it along the way is how you ensure a great outcome. One of the things that we have done for many years, and we preach at Burn the Ships, is through personality testing. Like, I need to know who I'm dealing with, and I don't need to know off of my gut feeling. I need real data. So we test from the interview process all the way through the hiring process, and then we post the personality results on everyone's workstation around our office, so everybody is reminded of who we're talking to and working with. I don't think you can really have a successful relationship with someone in a work environment unless you test them for their personality. What is their DNA? And then you can really understand how you mold.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I don't know if the two of you know, but I actually partnered with Dr. Tony Alessandra, who's the founder, really, truly, of the biggest platform in the world when it comes to personalities for DISC and so forth. And so he's got an assessment portfolio of over 100 assessments. And I would agree with you. I would also take it another step further of, we both know the golden rule. And the golden rule is really treat others how you'd like to be treated. But here's the thing about the golden rule that's not so effective, is that if I have a personality of dominance and you're a personality of influence, and I start treating you the way that I want to be treated, that ain't going to work, because that's not your personality style. So you're bang on. You need to really understand who that other person is and what motivates them. Do you use assessments in your business, Judge?
Yeah, Matt, we use predictive index, right? Predictive index is the main thing that we do. And I think it's 100% aligned with you that, and that's what's great about predictive index, right? You understand how to approach somebody, right? Yeah. How they're going to react, and you understand your personality, and you become a better leader, husband, father, partner, whatever. But I think the thing that has to have alignment is the core values. And Matt and I preach this. So you can have different personalities, but they have to be in harmony and unified around a set of beliefs and behaviors. Okay. So now you could be very analytical, where I'm like, shoot, aim, and we could match well together. But if we're not fundamentally ingrained with the core value of speed or profit or whatever your core value is, it's never going to work. So when you ask the culture question, you can definitely have different personalities, and they're needed, and you can assess that through things like predictive index. But if you don't have the behaviors and actions you want your organization to do and what you're going to tolerate, you're never going to grow.
100%. I mean, if you're not all aligned, then it doesn't matter if you know who they are or who they aren't. It's irrelevant. Love it.
Lisa, this is a movement for your audience to really understand what Judge was talking about, of this, checkers to chess movement. It doesn't just happen within an organization. It has to happen within us at a certain point in our life. We must evolve from checkers, which is, I shovel the snow for $6 an hour, to I work with my mind for $20 an hour, to I work with my experience and my mind and my network and my relationships for thousands of dollars an hour, right? It's a requirement that at some point we understand that how we were is not how we have to eventually operate. I just had a conversation with my office this morning. We have a very highly paid salesperson in my office who from time to time still acts like an hourly worker. And we're about the only person that can get through to him and on that level and say, you realize that you made $850,000 last year, but some days you still act like a $50,000 a year thinker. And he changes, but he reverts. So he needs somebody to step up and just talk to him again, like, hey, let me teach you chess again. You're playing a little checkers. Let me get you back on the road for chess. And he snaps right back out of it. We have to do that all the time within our organizations and our people.
Yeah, absolutely. Holding people accountable is a big deal. And if you're not willing to actually step up and be a leader and hold your people accountable and have those tough conversations, then what's the point of actually being why would you be in the head space or in the leadership role if that's the case? It's interesting. Burn the ships. Let's talk a little bit about how that got started for the two of you, because that really was over, from my understanding, a couple drinks of whiskey and a cigar, and it has evolved into so much more than a start of a conversation. So, Judge, let's talk a little bit about Burn the Ships. Where did it come from? How did Burn the Ships actually evolve to where it is today?
Yeah, it's great. Matt and I were on the same speaking circuit together, and at some point we were in a green room together and finally said, well, we've seen each other a few times. We should get to know each other. And it just happened that we live literally 5 minutes from each other, right? And we're both huge cigar guys. And so we said, why don't we just go have a cigar and catch up? And, 4 cigars later, a couple hours later, and Matt had a platform he was using and I had a platform I was using, and when we overlaid it, it was so similar, right? But there was nuances that were different, and we just got fed up with the what we call like fake gurus, right? I mean, there's so many people out there that really don't have the experience and claim they do, and they don't have their resume, and they're giving this counsel when they probably should be giving advice, right?
Yeah.
And so we said, we're tired of people selling from the stage or giving so much, and then they don't give the value. We said, why don't we just throw an event together? And we literally put it together and we sold it out, and it was so impactful that we said, you know what, this thing has traction. And so we evolved it to this idea of Burn the Ships. And Burn the Ships for us is, no plan B. Right. I mean, you're on that island. You have your boat. It's 100,000 miles of water surrounding you. You take a match, you put gas, and you burn the boat. You're committed now, right? And we believe most business owners aren't really that committed. And the reason they're not that committed, Lisa, is they don't have a plan. Where do you go to really go? Where do you learn how to go from making $1 million to $100 million? It's tough. It really doesn't exist, right? And that is, ingrained in a fundamental plan that's not only strategic, but it's tactical. And so Matt and I have 31 pillars of content. We build people's plans, and we take these people from kind of entrepreneur to CEO. And we're just now really starting to see the benefits. I mean, we just had a guy that sold his company for millions of dollars, and he's attributed Matt and I to it. I mean, we've had a guy that, never had recurring revenue to post, 6 months, he's doing $300,000 or $400,000 a month in recurring revenue. And so for Matt and I, it's purpose, right? We truly love this platform, and it's not for everybody, because it takes a lot of thinking and it takes a lot of work, but it's an amazing event. We believe there's nothing like it out there, period. Matt, fair?
I would say, there's a lot of masterminds that have very specific purpose, but I don't know that with there's anyone out there that's really doing what the two of you were doing. So kudos, and my hat's off to both of you for what you've done. But it goes to show the power of a conversation and an introduction, and the moment of a meeting of an opportunity that really resulted in something that's created a massive impact and is starting this movement. How do you folks, the two of you see, we're moving more into a online space rather than being in a room space. So how do you see Burn the Ships evolving based on that?
Matt,
I'll let you answer.
I think, I think Burn the Ships is so fundamental and tactical that regardless of what influences might pop in, whether it's a pandemic or it's millennials or it's tech, business is actually pretty simple. It's pretty formulaic. Do this, then this, then this, then this, overlay effort, overlay time, Make sure you're in what we refer to as the right platform. So many people are in businesses that if you put time and effort, it still won't pay, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that are in bad businesses. So you got to make a few right choices. But once you do that, it's somewhat formulaic. And we think that Burn the Ships is the only place that teaches that systematic roadmap, unlike anything else. And we do it in a day and a half. And it's hardcore. We start at 7:30 in the morning. We go till 9 o'clock at night. We start at 7:30 the following morning. We finish at noon. We want everybody to go home to their families and think all of this stuff through. We think Burn the Ships will be around for a long time. I want to overlay something, though, that might be harsh, but true. Neither of us would do it if we didn't make money doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a requirement. I love how Ray Dalio, the author of the book Principles, talks about it, right? He says you got to know what you're good at, and then you got to put some passion to it, and then you have to create your own economy to make sure that it's worth doing what you're good and passionate about. There is a third element to it. You must create an economy. And so Burn the Ships is a moneymaker for Judge and I, and we wouldn't do it if it didn't have an opportunity to make money. I think a lot of people miss that. They want to do things without understanding what the end game is.
Well, and let's face it, I mean, money makes the world go round and round. And why, you've worked so hard, your hours, you only have so many hours in a day. We have to make it the most productive and most profitable imaginable. And if we don't have money, we can't create more impact. And really, at the end of the day, that's what we need. Money. I love money. I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's what you do with it, right?
Totally. And how you behave.
Well, that's too. You need more money. Exactly. But you bring up a really good point. Like, there are a lot of people in the world right now who are self-proclaimed experts and gurus. And it's funny, I had a conversation with somebody, was this about a year ago, and he was telling me, I'm the number one salesperson in the world. Okay. So if you're the number one salesperson in the world, how did you come up with that? Well, my client told me. I said, so one person in a world of 1 billion and some people told you you're the expert, therefore you're the expert. And that's your, he's like, yeah, that's my, like, well, that's very good for you, but move on. And there's a lot of that going on. So how do you filter through that? How do you really figure out who's the expert and who isn't? Is it results driven, Judge?
Yeah, everything is results driven. Listen, any business that I'm going to ever be involved in, and I think Matt feels probably the same here, is you're always selling a result. It's always an outcome, right? And so if you don't have proof points of that result, then how can you be an expert, right? And so that's something that we teach all the time. It Burn the Ships, right? I mean, one of the things we lead with is this idea of market leader content and selling results. So I don't care, if you're in insurance and you need to become niche and sell like horse insurance. In order to become the expert at something, you have to go narrow, right? You have to become more niche to get more market share, to have more case studies, to have more proof points. And so that's something we teach. It's results driven. People don't buy people, they buy the result. Yeah. So it's key. 100% key. So when you're looking for an expert or whatever, you just have to look at it and go, am I going to seek out counsel or mentorship from this person or knowledge? And have they done what I want to do or more? And do they have the proof to assure me that they have? And if they don't, then you've got to make a tough decision if it's a good fit for you.
It's a big deal. Yeah. So what Judge is talking about and the question you're asking, it's a really, it's a big deal because, I have fallen victim to taking advice from the wrong people. And positioning them as this mentor role. And it hurt me. It kept me small. It kept me thinking, like one guy said, you got to buy the building because, most businesses sell for the equity in the building rather than the equity in the business. So I went and I bought this little building that I could afford. We were penned in like birds in cages for years, but I kept saying, well, you own the building, we're building equity, right? And then it dawned on me, moving from Checkers to I began to say, well, wait a minute. Why does that have to be the thought process? Why would I be building equity in the building and not focused on building equity in the business? Yeah. And we immediately sold that building, went back to leasing space. And now when something breaks, I call the landlord and say, well, the office manager calls the landlord and says, hey, come on out and fix this. We focus on the business. I'm not focused on equity in this little bitty building. So that's so important that we really reach up when we're trying to find this person of counsel, this mentor, this someone who really can guide us. They have to have done stuff way above what we have done.
Yeah, and you've got it. And I think Matt brings up a good point of network. I'm going to give you just a quick, an example. So my son's 10 years old. He wants to be a receiver, right? So what do we need to do? How do I teach? I was never a receiver. I played college football. I was a fullback, not a receiver. So I started with my network, which is this place called D1 that does like training for, potential college athletes. And I went there and we did an assessment, and they can help with some speed drills and some other things. And most people would have gone, boom, that's it. That is the place my son can learn that. And I said, you know what? That's not good. It's good. It would be an improvement, but my son wants to be a receiver. So now I'm looking for past NFL receivers that are training, or high school coaches of winning teams that are receivers. And I've already found some, and I have phone calls because I'm reaching up. Yeah. I'm not going to settle, and I need to find the right counsel, the right expert. And we so many times stop. We settle with whatever we think is the opportunity, and we don't reach up, or we don't do the diligence required to seek counsel. We stay in a comfort level, right? And we typically get advice. Although advice is very well intended, it typically doesn't level you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, would you say that some people are afraid to actually reach out to level up? They don't know how to actually do that.
Yeah, people are scared to invest in themselves. People are scared to reach up. My counsel, not advice, here would be all people can do is say no.
Yeah.
Matt and I get a lot of DMs and things, and a lot of the times, we say no, but a lot of the times we say yes. Right. So the person that doesn't ask is never going to get the yes. Right.
Yeah,
so
I was sitting with Tom Hopkins last year, and
I love Tom Hopkins.
Oh, I just love Tom. I mean, he's an amazing man. And so we were talking about no. And I said, listen, Tom, I really believe a no is just not a not yet. What do you think about that? And he went on to tell me about the time that he was, early in his career, and he was talking about, and I have a video of it somewhere, about the power of a no, and how it just kept fueling him to keep forward, and the challenge of that. It was an amazing moment in my career anyways, to talk about the power of no and what you can do moving forward. I think that there's time and a place for a no. You have to make a decision as a leader when, like you guys talked about, when you say no and when you say yes. How do you really understand what's an opportunity versus what's a drain sucker that you're just going to circle down the drain with? Matt, I'll let you answer that.
I think early in my career, it was all about income. So can I make money from this relationship because I need the money? Yeah. Now, without question, it's about alignment, right? Literally, what does this person stand for? How do I have perspective that what they stand for is actually what they do? And does it align with what I want to do and who I want to hang out with and who I want to be known for hanging out with? Yeah. So it does evolve. And I never, maybe unlike some people, like if you're all about the money, I'm good with that. Like I have seen it. I have seen tragedy, and I have been the person that was able to do some form of relief in the form of a check to alleviate some of that tragedy of not having your financial house in order.
Yeah.
And I'm all about if you need to be selfish and contract and just take care of yourself and your family, and that drives you relationship model, I'm down with that. I have no problem with that at all. But once that check on Friday no longer matters, right?
Yep.
The bills aren't on pink slips anymore, and you can start to, then it moves again from checkers to chess. It moves into it. And I can tell you that culture and alignment will make you more money than chasing the money.
Yeah.
But there is a place for both.
Yeah. Well, there's a whisper in the world right now talking about, especially with virtual teams and work from anywhere, this concept of belonging. How do you really get your culture in a sense of belonging? And I'm going to ask you, Judge, how do you see that happening moving forward?
It's core value. Listen, I'm going to come back to almost everything and say core values. And here's how I frame it. And I think we've gotten too soft. One is a society, and two is business owners. Okay. It's our right is the business, starting with the leader, to create the culture they believe will win or lose. Okay. And so if you can't get the people around the belief system and the behaviors, you're never going to have belonging. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Again, like speed is it's a fundamental core value at my core. Okay. I don't care where you are on the predictive index, whatever. If you aren't cool with operating fast in my organization, you're never going to have belonging. It's just not going to play out that way. Okay. Or if you don't care about making money, you're sure as fuck not going to feel like you belong here because you have a different agenda. So I think it's the core values. Matt and I believe it's 4. You need 4 words. Those 4 words become the belief system in the behaviors, right, Lisa? And if people listening, to answer that question of belonging, it's what are your belief systems and what are your behaviors? And if you set that up front, you will embrace it. You will belong. It'll become fraternal. If not, you're not going to belong, and that's okay. And most businesses are trying to be too soft. They don't want to take a stand on belief systems. They don't want to take a stand on behaviors. They want this nirvana state that everybody belongs. Dude, you work for me, not everybody belongs.
Yeah. Well, I love how Grant Cardone says, like, this is it. This is the way it rolls. And you either step up or you get out, right? And my husband always says, you're either in my way or get out of my way. And so it's true. You have to have that type of mentality in order to really push forward. So, Judge, you talk a lot about like market legacies and how to really create new market space. How do you interrupt markets? How do you become the legacy leader in a market? Let's talk a little bit about that, because I'm good friends with Adam Vasquez, and Adam Vasquez, they consider him the godfather of market invention. He's created billions of dollars in value for companies over the years, interrupting legacy markets with new opportunities. What's your thoughts on that? How do you see, if somebody's watching today and they're like, I think I have a market invention that I can interrupt Nike with, or whoever the legacy is, what does that look like in your world?
It's real simple. Is there a problem in whatever your service or product? If it can solve it, it's a winner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really that simple, right? If you want to be a disruptor at a Tesla level or a Steve Jobs level, all those guys did was go, here's a problem. Gasoline is a problem to some sector of people. How do I offset that? Electric car. And what's in the market sucks. They don't have good distance. They have no sexiness to it. So I'm going to go create the first brand that has sex appeal for a higher end market that's electric. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Where's the problem, and can you create a viable solution? And then I would say, to be a market disruptor, you have to move fast.
Yeah.
Because that window, you're not the only person that's understanding what that problem is. And so you have to have kahunas to go all in and be not afraid of success, not afraid of failure, and you have to just go all in.
Yeah. Well, I think they call that grit, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, they have to have toughness, but there is one other approach to that, which is if you go into a space that is so big, the crumbs left over by the big dogs in that space can produce more than they need. In my space of truck financing, Wells Fargo is the Cadillac of our industry. And in their equipment financing division, right, not the bank, but a division of the bank, last year they did $3.5 billion of big rig truck financing. That's been the case for many, many years. I saw that real early. And I said, wait a minute, if it's $3 billion, there's got to be 100 million of crumbs, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have to create a brand new segment or sector or product.
Yeah.
You might just be able to go into an industry that's already so big. Transportation, look at finance, insurance, logistics, old, staid, boring industries for so many people. There's huge market share in those industries that you can get your piece of that pie and do wildly successful things. You just got to look for it.
It has to be niche.
It has to be, you've got to be, as Judge said, you've got to find that problem that isn't being addressed in a marketplace that's big enough, and that slice of the pie can do everything you ever wanted it to. It's what happened. It's
Matt,
exactly what happened to us.
I talk about horse insurance all the time. I think you and I should look into that and become that market leader. But I mean, seriously, I guarantee whoever is the top producer selling horse insurance in America is a multi-millionaire. That's just how it plays out, right? So what can you freaking own? What as you look at it, people get so scared. They go, no, dude, I sell insurance. I'll sell freaking everything. Car, home, lotto, final expense, property casual, horse. No, dude, go sell horse insurance, become the freaking leader at that, and you'll make more money than you could ever imagine. But most importantly, Lisa, you're creating enterprise value, because the big boy goes, you know what? We don't really understand horse insurance that well. This person does. I'm just going to buy it.
Yeah.
Drop mic.
Would you mind if we stayed on this just for one more moment, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now what happens? I'm at the cocktail party and the guy says, what do you do? And I say, well, I finance I insure horses. Oh, I'm not into horses. No problem. Great. What are you into? What do you do? I finance horses. Oh, I love horses, right? In fact, I didn't know I could get insurance on my horses. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I'm the guy. Do you want to talk to me? Perfect. I just aligned my ideal client, right? Now, hire people. What do we do? We finance horses. Do you like horses? I freaking love horses. I grew up riding horses. We have a stable. I love it. Awesome. You like what we do. Insurance? Yeah, I used to do car insurance. Great. Well, now we do insurance. So I just fixed my hiring problem. I probably fixed my culture problem.
Problem.
Fixed my sales and marketing problem, because I just went so narrow in insuring horses. That's what people don't want to do. We are so afraid that if we go niche, we're going to give up these opportunities, and we're literally biting our nose off to spite our face. The opportunity is in the niche if the marketplace is big enough.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that makes total sense. Stay focused, dominate, nail it, scale it, own it, and then think about maybe duplicating in another industry.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%.
Goes into dogs, and horses goes into deer, and horses goes into whatever. But
parrots.
Still somewhat in parrots. It's still in this. Maybe lions for your backyard, Judge.
Yeah. It'd kill my little dogs. We can't do that. Sophia wouldn't last.
You're a mentor. You're an advisor. You both are coaches to thousands of people. How do you invest in who coaches you and who mentors you and holds you accountable? Because I think people need to realize that when you're at that level, you're still looking to get to the next level, and you still always have to seek advice and support and guidance from others. So, Matt, who holds you accountable? Do you have one coach, 5 coaches? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I do. I have a CEO coach for our company, but I don't spend a ton of time with him. I really have my executive management team spending time with him.
Yeah.
Look, I have always been a super gritty learner. Like I would go to Half Price Books, which is a Texas bookstore, and then I'd go to the clearance rack and I'd buy all the motivational stuff for 99 cents. That's how I got to meet or be familiar with Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, and Zig Ziglar, and all those guys. And I would buy those tapes for 99 cents, Lisa, and I would play them incessantly. It's the same thing today on YouTube. Like I probably spend 2 hours a day watching YouTube videos. And the person I truly admire the most right now is Ray Dalio. And not just because of the book, but if you watch Ray Dalio's interviews, he's never interested in your story. He's interested in the questions that you're asking him that define your perspective and where your ego is and where your intellect is, where your value system is. He's a master at that.
Yeah.
So my number one, my go-to guy used to be Cardone, and I love Cardone, but my go-to guy right now is Ray Dalio.
Interesting. And how about for you, Judge?
For me, I mean, there's so much information, like Matt said, online. I could definitely do a better job at it. I think Matt and I will hold each other accountable and kind of mentor each other, which is great. Yeah. But for me, it has to be my patience level is really small, and I just don't like mindset stuff and go like I just would have to have the right individual for me. I mean, it would have to be all strategic, very tactical, laid out, action oriented, moving fast, and honestly, I haven't found that individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's always somebody out there. I mean, you've found it obviously in Matt. So, there's always somebody, and I get where you're going because I think that same way. I'm very like move fast, tactical, but I am an avid learner. I wake up every single morning, and if I have not learned something new, it is not a good day. And if maybe I've learned something and I have to mark it off and move on, but I think that you have to have that continuous mindset. And when I look for clients and when I work with other people, if learning is not a portion of what they do, I don't do business with them, period. Yeah. I just don't believe it's not my part of my value system. So I think it's really important. I have one other question for you, both of you gentlemen. I always end up the show this way. So my question to you, Matt, is if you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that look like?
Yeah, without question, I would do a personality test to see what my strengths and my weaknesses were. Without question, that's it. And in fact, my oldest son is 18. He'll be going off to college in the fall. And just last night, we were talking about before you head out, you'll be taking the predictive index, and you and I will be going through that. The second thing I would do is I would be less of a maverick and less of a lone desperado. I mean, I was a terrible employee. I was a terrible teammate. I just couldn't, I had to do it my way. And I would back off on that. And I would give myself a little bit more time to develop more relationships and more friendships. Because my success working with Judge is so much more fulfilling than my success working alone. It's and to Judge's point a minute ago on who he's learning from, and you addressed it, which I thought was very insightful. I learn a tremendous amount from Judge. I thought I worked fast. Judge works fast. The other thing that I learned from Judge too is Judge has exited 2 businesses from private equity, which is probably the play for my business. I learn how that process goes. Yeah. But one last thing on this, if you don't mind. Eventually, people do need to stop being the student and move more towards the teacher. You can be a student for way too long. Sooner or later, you kind of got it, right? Yeah. Then you just got to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, actions, I truly believe, speak much louder than words by far. So how about you, Judge?
Yeah, I think a few things would be reaching up further, right? I mean, I didn't do that enough, right? Although my previous business partner was amazing, 25 years, my senior, great mentor. I think he and I both could have been reaching up a little bit more, right? Which would bring to the second level of confidence, right? I think you can never have enough confidence different than ego, right? Big differentiator there. And then the other, I mean, Matt even alluded to speed. I would have moved faster. I would have. Well, listen, I fundamentally believe so much in the power of speed. And I think the reason I do, it's my unique ability, but I just see what happens when you force so much momentum and you create so much speed and you don't procrastinate and you take an idea to action. It becomes magical when you literally sit in a room and map out, here's the idea. And then what usually happens, Lisa, is everybody says, okay, break. Now I'll go do this. I'll go do that. If you say, no, let's do it now. Let's go from idea to reality to action. Then that creates momentum. And that's a skill and an art that most people just don't appreciate.
Yeah,
and
I would.
Sorry, Lisa. The reason Judge has adopted that relentlessness to speed is because it allows you to do the most important thing in testing the idea, which is beta test. It allows you to begin to put different variations of the idea to play, collect the data, and then adjust. And he's a bloody master at that because of speed. So everybody's like, oh, Judge is just pushing me too hard. No, it's because we're getting the data to then make the right decision, and then we go hard in that direction. Yep. So it's magical to watch. And I thought I pushed hard until Judge came into my life. We just had it happen yesterday where we were doing a text campaign and we're like, oh yeah, sounds good. And Judge's like, good. But before we leave, let's write the text. Then once it's done, then we're going to hit send.
Yeah. Well, and I can feel with you, Judge, because I too believe the same. I mean, execute. If you're not executing, and I feel for me when I'm in my business and I'm helping other businesses, if we're not executing, we're not moving fast enough. Why are we sitting around lollygagging with our hands, on our asses and not doing the work to keep moving forward? How do we know unless we actually execute on it? So I'm with you on that one. Actions speak much louder than words. Let's move and fix it afterwards, get the data, and then make the decisions from it after.
Yeah, I'm going to leave with this. I mean, anybody that has a service-based business, and that's all I've been in, is service. Yeah. And especially if you're in professional services, listen, the client sees zero value in your fucking process, the how hard you're working, how many employees it takes, the rigor it's involved. All they care about is, I've paid you. When do I reap the reward of the result? Yeah. And the problem is as companies grow and leaders, you get caught up in the minutia of the process of making the sausage versus delivering it. And it, you will never scale. The client does not give a fuck. Yeah. Get it done and fast, shield them from those things, and deliver the result.
Well, and I think too, and I've had these conversations with previous vendors. Activity does not result in productivity. I mean,
they don't care, right?
I don't care about how much activity you did. Great, that's what I paid you for, but you didn't get the results. I want the results. I don't care if it took 50 people, 100 people, $200,000, $1 million. I don't care. Did you get the results?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So we get so caught up in that, and we become soft as leaders because our people get mired in that. In that, that will kill your business. I see so many businesses never past $1 million, $5 million because they can't get out of their own way. Yeah. They've lost where to go, and it's the result.
It's the result. Well, gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to be with you two today for this past hour. Good luck, stay healthy, and let's keep in touch.
Peace.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you very much.